Thank you for this opportunity. If I'm understanding law of attraction, when our airwaves are filled with political rhetoric of potential nuclear war, and we have a reaction that goes, no, we're actually participating and drawing that to us.
Yeah, you're part of the creation of it.
Yeah.
And that's hard to accept because it seems like if enough of us get together and shout no, we should be able to make a difference. But there's no such thing as no in a vibrational universe. When you look at something and shout yes, you include it in your vibration. When you look at something and shout no, you include it in your vibration.
Help. So I want to say, okay, we'll turn the TV off and don't watch it. But there's enough of it out there that as you're walking past it blasting, I'm hoping that you can maybe give me something to think about to help me not keep drawing it.
Well, there are two things that we want to say to you, because what you want us to do is talk you off the ledge.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like when you're walking down the street and you're reeling with something that you don't want, making some attempt at talking yourself off the ledge is the only thing that you can do. It's just not that effective. It's better than feeling terrible. So it really is, you might say, what coping is. It's finding a way of looking at it that causes you to maybe feel a little better. But you usually don't get too far in that. So a better approach to it is to let yourself start all over. Esther described this very thing to herself in this way. And we're going to add something to her description for her and for you. Esther said to a friend, I remember seeing a video of a car crash where everyone died. It was a video of what happened and what happened and what happened and what happened. And then they played it backwards. And she said, I so wished that that could have just been rewound so that this outcome that nobody wanted would not have come out yet. So now she's using that analogy to beat up on herself, to talk herself on the ledge about things like you're describing that you can't really control. The way she was using that example for herself was, so people of planet Earth, we all need to do something different now before it gets to something that we do not want, as if you could do anything about the momentum that's already underway. You following? Feeling as bad as Esther? Yeah. So what we want to add to that is you can start a new vibration right now. You don't have to rewind the tape to go back to something before it happened. You can't do that. But you can infuse the now with something that starts at the core of who you are. You could meditate and tune in to the frequency of who you are and feel the enormity of the vortex that is being added to right now. And all of the desires that the people of the world are putting into the vortex right now. And you could be one who just goes to a happy garden. You could be one who, instead of trying to do the impossible of thinking a horrific thought and feeling good about it, you're not ever going to do that. You just stay off that thought because that thought is not a vibrational match to the thought that the source within you is thinking. So you feel the relief of your alignment in the midst of all of that. It's not an easy thing to do, but it is doable. And it is what your work is about. It's how you bring forward in this now manifestation what the source within you knows about this manifestation. You're going to get this right now. So we're just going to stay here for a couple of minutes over time so that you can get this, because this is fun. You're really going to like this. So we're talking about what you put into the vortex and the existence of the vortex and the vibration of the vortex and the power and purity and sweetness and love of the vortex. So here's this vortex that most humans are not a very close vibrational match to their own vortex. But you've been listening to us. We've been telling you to get into the vortex, and more recently we're talking to you about getting yourself through meditation into a vibrational stance that makes you vibrationally equivalent to what's in the vortex. So you just quiet your mind, which means you tune out anything that isn't vortex funnel that will let some of it in. But you could be. You could meditate. You could open that valve. You could allow that energy to flow to you. And do you know one who's connected to this energy stream is more powerful than millions who are not? So now, think about this. You've allowed yourself, because you stopped making it urgent, you quieted your mind, and so the urgency of it isn't active within you. And it might have taken you 2 or 3 days of 15 or 20 minutes a day to get there, but you can get there because you've gotten there before. So you're tuned into it, and you're receiving the streams of well-being that are flowing to you, the confidence and the security and the well-being that your inner being knows and feels for your planet. You're in that receiving mode. Now, let's say that of the billions of people on the planet, there aren't that many of you who know to do that. Most of you really do have your hair on fire. Most of you are all worried about everything. Most of you are watching and flipping from channel to channel, and you're getting together in groups and you're worried about what some people are saying. But you're not one of those. You're tuned in, tapped in, turned on. You're in this receiving mode. But what about all of those others that are in the receiving mode of man's conscious thought? Because you're always, this is a point we really want you to hear, you are always, if you're awake, you have your receiver on. The question is, what is it tuned to? Is it tuned into fearful rhetoric? Is it tuned into things that make you feel terrible when you tune to them because your inner being isn't tuned to them? Your inner being is not tuned there because your inner being is tuned to the wishes and the desires and the hopes and the dreams of the vortexes. Your inner being is not ever going to tune to that. It doesn't matter what network it is, your inner being is not going to tune to it. And it's all right if you do, because it causes you to have step one moments that cause you to put things into your vortex. But if you're going to be one that has anything influential and uplifting to do about your planet, you've got to find a way in the midst of all of this to tune to the vibration of well-being. The other day, Esther sat to meditate. This has happened to her several times recently. That was perfect timing. She sat to meditate, and something loud disrupted her meditation. In one case, she was in the garden and with a friend, and they just sat, they'd just closed their eyes. She had just begun to relax, and jets started flying over. One after another, after another, after another, after another, after another, after another. And her first impulse was, we need to go someplace that's more quiet. But instead, she tuned to a different sound and, in essence, tuned the jets out. And then when they were walking, she and her friend said, that's sort of like it is in the world. We're walking around in all this noise in the world, but we're tuning to something different than all this noise in the world. And it doesn't take too many to tune to the something else than all the noise in the world in order to affect the timing and the outcomes of things. You have so much more influence that you know, but most of you don't exercise your influence because you're already swept up in the momentum, because it feels more powerful to do something when it isn't. What are you going to do? There's so much leverage in alignment. And it's just sort of puny stuff that goes on in terms of action. You're doing a pretty good job. There's major construction going on in the room next door. And yet it's not really hindering you. It's not preventing you from hearing. It's going to be fun when you hear it back on the recorder. It's not the optimum experience. But really, are you really going to ask everybody to just roll over and think like you think and do what you do and want what you want? In other words, either contrast is a good thing or it isn't. Which is it? Without contrast, there could be no new asking, and without new asking, there could be no eternity, and without eternity, we would all cease to be, and that's not an option. And so, contrast is either good or it isn't, and you don't get to say, well, this contrast is all right, and this is enough, but that goes way overboard. You don't get to say that. You get to say contrast is a good thing because contrast sharpens my desire. And when my desire is sharpened, it doesn't take very many me's to allow the energy that creates worlds to flow through on the wings of that in order for wonderful things to come of that. You're following?
Mm-hmm.
We think this is a very good time